Hello, everybody, and welcome into another playoff preview here at the Hockey Raiders. And we're up to the Washington Capitals and the Montreal Canadiens. Another Canadian team involved here. There's 5 in the playoffs this year, which is great for Canada. Lots of Canadian content, and of course the Montreal Canadiens being here for the first time in a long time. And I don't know if anyone really expected them to be in the playoffs this year, but they're here and going up against the Washington Capitals, who pretty close to competing for the President's Trophy and winning it, but the Winnipeg Jets got that. But they're still the top seed in the East. So, Ryan, how's it going?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. Just ready for playoffs to get started. And Christopher, how's it going?
I'm doing wonderful, Matt.
So, yeah, it's going to be a fun series, I think. So let's just jump in. And we're going to talk about the journey to the playoffs for the Capitals. So, Christopher, I mean, we all know, Alexander Ovechkin. It was the story of the whole season. Will he do it? Will he become the all-time leading goal scorer in the NHL? He ended up doing it, and he just keeps adding on, or he did add on to it towards the end of the season. And what has the Capitals' journey been like? I don't know if anyone really expected them to be this good this season, to be the top seed in the East.
It's going to be interesting in about 10 years, depending upon how this postseason run goes, when people look back, because the moves that they made in the offseason, almost every single one of them hit. The trade for Pierre-Luc Dubois, Mangiapane from Calgary on the free agent signing. While it wasn't a massive one, he was a big role player. Getting Chikrin from Ottawa, just everything they did just fell into place. Their goaltending situation was phenomenal, which is why they extended both of them mid-season in January. So the Caps started at 8-2. Which they started rolling. Obviously, the momentum was behind the push for Ovechkin, and I think that brought everybody together. But it also really started last year, and the fact that they snuck into the playoffs in the last day of the season, and then got dumped out of the first round again. As the 5th straight time that they haven't actually won a playoff series since they lifted the cup in 2018, which is wild to think about. So I think that they were on a mission for 2 reasons. One, they got back to the Stanley Cup playoffs last year, and it was a very short experience. And then 2, it was Ovechkin, and that whole run brought the team together, and I think really raised the team and the level that they were playing at. And then he got hurt halfway through. He's out for 16 games. Well, a lot of people don't realize the Caps were 10-5-1. So, it's one of those things that they have a very, very well constructed core. And the real question is going to be, how real was the last 10, 12 games? They went 4-8 over their last 12. So was that just being sloppy and finishing off the Ovechkin chase, or was that like more of who they are when all of that hoopla isn't there?
Yeah, that's going to be something to watch. They're kind of stumbling into the playoffs, which is not a good place to be, especially when you're one of the top seeds. You want to be rolling going in and have confidence in your game. So hopefully that's not a sign of things to come here, and we'll see how it goes. All right, Ryan, for the Canadiens, I mean, it took them a bit. There was a few games where like, oh, they may not make it. Columbus may overtake them, and Columbus just kept winning. And Canadiens had to do it on the last day of the season, winning their last game against the Carolina Hurricanes. So what has been their journey like? I mean, lots of young players. Their core is starting to really come together. And they're still mixed with a lot of veterans, too. So what has been their journey like to finally the playoffs here?
Just to peel back the curtain, we initially tried to do this like after the Blackhawks game, and obviously fate intervened, and the Blackhawks won in a shootout. And then we thought maybe we might do it the next night when the Blue Jackets played the Flyers, and then the Blue Jackets beat the Flyers to extend their winning streak. And we're like, okay, well, maybe this might not happen at all. But yeah, it's been a wild ride for all of Montreal because this was not anticipated. honestly, like at the start of the season, Kent Hughes, the general manager, basically, and Jeff Gordon and Jeff Molson, the owner, they're basically saying the goal is to be in the mix at the end of the season, which translates to just playing meaningful games, past the trade deadline. And, no one really said the P word, playoffs, in case I wasn't clear. But it's kind of like they're ahead of schedule at this point, because like that would have been the goal next year had they just fallen short this year. So now, like, they're playing with house money. Like, I don't think anyone in Montreal really cares what happens against the Caps. The Capitals got swept in the first round last season, and look what happened. And honestly, the Capitals ended up with 91 points, just like Montreal this year. So there are a lot of parallels to be drawn, minus the fact that we don't have an Alexander Ovechkin. But, Ivan Demidov, maybe.
Yeah.
In the near future, who knows? But yeah, I hesitate to kind of label this team, because I don't know what to make of it personally. Like, they lost prior to getting in on their final game of the season against Carolina Hurricanes, which was resting like a third of their roster, by the way. They'd obviously lost 3 games. Prior to that, they had won 6 in a row to get to a point where they were 8 points ahead of the field, needing just 3 points to clinch. And they obviously couldn't do that until game 82. From December 3rd on, they were one of the best teams in the league. That based purely on points percentage. Based on ice performance, I'm not so sure. There were a lot of flat-footed starts, a lot of, at least down the stretch, maybe they were just gassed. I don't know. But I think it's fair to say that the Capitals are definite favorites, and I don't think that they're going to necessarily steamroll the Canadiens, but yeah, it's going to be. I mean, we have 2010 to lean back on, so I don't know if you guys recall that. That's still a possibility. So for those not in the know, that's when the Capitals won the President's Trophy. And the Canadiens, I think there was like a 31-point disparity between them in the standings or something. And the Canadiens flipped between Yaroslav Halak and Carey Price in net, and Halak ran with the ball and shut the Capitals down almost single-handedly to upset the Capitals. That's become part of Montreal lore at this point, and who knows what happens now.
For sure. I mean, could it be Samuel Montembeault being that guy? I mean, we'll see. That could be something to watch for sure. All right, well, let's talk about some of the players that are in this series. And Christopher, I'll start with you with the Capitals. I mean, of course, everyone's going to be watching Alexander Ovechkin. He's been good in the playoffs in the past. Early on, there was questions about he wasn't as dominant in the playoffs until probably the Cup run, where he did start looking like a guy that can step up his game there. Anyone else you really want to highlight as players to watch in this series? Like, the Washington Capitals have really good depth on their team. It's not just Ovechkin.
No, and that's really kind of one of the main disparities that I find between the two teams is the depth. For the Capitals, they had multiple 30-goal scorers, 20-goal scorers, and it's basically been the top line for the Canadiens most of this year, providing the vast majority of their points. So, and that's really been up and down their lineup. Dylan Strome's had an absolute breakout year. Alexei Protas as well. Connor McMichael. You can kind of go up and down the roster of Capital players that have performed well outside of Ovechkin. And, I think it's one of those things that balanced scoring effort is how they're going to get past the Canadiens. I don't think it's going to be, oh, hey, here, let's, lean on the best scorer in the world. I think that's a bonus for this team, which is crazy to think about.
Sure. I mean, and the thing is, even when they did win the Cup, it wasn't Ovechkin, just Ovechkin too. I mean, there was a lot of guys that contributed to that playoff run. And, Tom Wilson being a big part of that. And he's going to probably be a big part of it this year too, because he's a playoff guy. I mean, he's kind of he is just built for this time of year, and he has shown it. Even in the season series with the Canadiens, again, he had 3 goals in the season series. So he could be one to watch that could step up his game in this one. All right, Ryan, with the Canadiens, they've got their star players, like, Chris mentioned the top line with Nick Suzuki, Cole Caulfield, Juraj Slafkovsky. You've also got Ivan Demidov. I don't know how big he'll be. I mean, he scored in his first game, which is great.
And an assist.
Yeah, had 2 points, right? So who should everyone be watching in this series? I mean, you can mention those guys. Who you want to kind of highlight?
Yeah, well, I mean, just a small correction. Like, there's no disputing that the Capitals have more depth around their lineup, but the Canadiens actually had 12 players with double-digit goal totals. So there is some depth there, although I will concede that the Capitals just have more of it. Yeah, I mean, beyond the top line of Suzuki, Caulfield, and Slafkovsky, which was one of the top lines since the Four Nations face-off in like the entire league. I'd say, yeah, you have to look at Demidov. Line A is kind of enigmatic. He's kind of like a power play merchant. And the hope is that Demidov gets that second line going from at even strength. Second line being him, Line A, and Newhook, Alex Newhook at center. But it's worth noting that Alex Newhook is, I mean, I think he was drafted as a center, but for most of his time in Montreal, he was put in the wing position, and he's only really played center when Kirby Dach has been injured, which admittedly has been a lot of the time. But he's not meant to be a center on this team. And that line, I mean, it worked in Demidov's first game, so we'll see. And I'd say the third line, which kind of had taken on the responsibility of the second line down the stretch from a secondary scoring perspective, is one to watch. Got Christian Dvorak between Josh Anderson and Brendan Gallagher. And each of those 3 players have kind of had been labeled cast-offs. But like they definitely put it together somehow, some way. And they kind of, in my opinion, they kind of encapsulate, playoff hockey, all 3 of them. And yeah, I wouldn't sleep on the offense up front for the Canadiens. Yeah, on defense, Lane Hudson obviously set or tied a rookie assist record with Larry Murphy. I think Arbor Jackeye, who has actually been scratched recently, will figure in somewhat in this series, just to try and keep Tom Wilson in check. Yeah, and aside from that, I think you got like Matthew pointed out, Montembeault in net, who actually was just behind Logan Thompson in terms of goals saved above expected. So his overall stat line is nothing to necessarily write home about, but he's kept the Canadiens in games all season long. So while I definitely give the edge to the Capitals in net, assuming Thompson is 100%, Montembeault is definitely capable of stealing game here and there.
And they also got Jakub Dobeš, who really good during the season too. So I mean, I don't know if he'll enter this series at any point, but he's a good fallback guy. I mean, he's played pretty well for a rookie and during the season, right? So I take him over Caden Primo pretty early on as the backup. Okay, let's talk about some keys to victory for both teams, and we'll start with the Capitals. Now, I mean, they are the favorite going in, maybe not an overwhelming favorite because of how they finished the season, so there could be some question marks. But what are the keys to victory for the Capitals to come out of this one?
I think there's 2 main ones that jump out to me. The first one is eliminate the unknown, which is Demidov. You don't exactly know what he brings to the table, but obviously his skill is there. If you've watched any video, you've seen it, on tape. I'm sure it looks even more impressive in person. It almost always does. So in the playoffs, it's a much different experience. So the Capitals really do need to use a focused focused checking effort to take away his time and space. He didn't experience the same thing in the KHL. Obviously, NHL Stanley Cup Playoffs is another level. So you really want to make him particularly as uncomfortable as possible so that he can't get into a rhythm and really generate offense, which is what, is where he's going to be mostly dangerous in the series for Montreal. The second one is stay out of the penalty box. Don't take needless penalties. Lane Hudson, you mentioned the 60 assists. 40% of those 60 assists, just 24 of them, were on the power play. So don't give them the opportunity. Don't give, as you mentioned, Patrick Laine, the power play merchant, an opportunity to score. So I think if the Capitals can manage to stay out of the box, then, I think they give themselves the best chance to win the series.
Sure, yeah. The Canadiens are pretty good on the power play, 47 power play goals during the season. And like you mentioned, Ryan, with their offense, almost 3 goals a game. That's pretty decent. The Capitals just a 3.49, which is, a little over. It's pretty good too. So it could be a high scoring series. Who knows? We'll see what happens there. All right, Ryan, for the Canadiens, they're going to have their work cut out for them. The point disparity is pretty big, but they do have a lot of skill and a lot of speed, and most importantly, a lot of youth that they could potentially be pretty dangerous and maybe come out of this one. What are the keys to victory for them?
I'd just like to start off by maybe hopefully requesting that Chris use a different word than eliminate the unknown with regards to Davidoff. Contain the unknown, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, as you, Matthew, said, like the youth, it can kind of go one or two ways. One way, like they can be totally ignorant with regard to the magnitude of the stage they're on, and that could work in their favor, or they could also just be glad to be there and not really care what happens and just get knocked out in 4 games. And I think a lot of Montreal is kind of in, behind door number 2, where they're just glad to be there. So we're just along for the ride, but who knows what happens. The power play is definitely key. But however, the Canadiens have kind of been in a rut. I believe they're like 1 for their last 20 opportunities. So if they don't get that going, it's going to be a quick series. Beyond that, like Montembeault definitely, and between him and Dobesh, like Dobesh's ceiling is not necessarily known at this point, but Montembeault is going to get game 1 for sure. And obviously, if he stumbles, it's good to know that St. Louis has a capable backup, but I don't envision him going that route at all. So under the assumption that Montembeault is going to play the balance of the series, he's definitely going to need to play at the top of his capability. And all due respect to Ovechkin, he's not the dominant player he once was, in spite of like the goal total this year. So he's not necessarily someone who scares me as a Montreal Canadiens columnist or fan, having grown up in Montreal. But just the breadth of scoring options that the Capitals have beyond Ovechkin, that should be cause for concern for the Montreal Canadiens. So yeah, I hope it's not a high scoring series, because if it is, that means that the Capitals will win.
Yeah, for sure. In terms of the goaltending, Montreal in the season series started 3 guys, and Dobish had the only win. So Montembeault allowed 4 goals in this 1 game, and Kane Primo got the other one, which he allowed 6. So it is a bit of a interesting thing there.
In that win, that 1 win that the Canadiens had over the Capitals, they actually held the Capitals to a season low 17 shots. So that could be some source of inspiration, maybe. I don't see them doing that again, but who knows?
Yeah, and I mean, for looking at Lane Hudson, you mentioned the power plays. He had 4 assists in the season series, all 4 at even strength. So, I don't know.
So much for my point.
Take with that. And Caulfield, they led the season series in scoring with 5 points and 3 goals. So, no surprise there. Okay, Christopher, let's talk about some weaknesses. This is the start of our quick fire round. These are just quick few sentences to answer these. What is the one biggest weakness that you're worried about in the Capitals game that could potentially have them lose this?
Goaltending, I think, is the biggest loose chain. I mean, it's been fantastic all season. Over the last 15 games, they're giving up more than 3 goals a game. As Ryan mentioned, Logan Thompson had gotten hurt. He got cut on the top of his foot, if I remember correctly. So it's been a slow healing process. He is skating with the team. I don't know if he's going to play as of yet, but he is at least back within the realm of practicing with the team. So it's been shaky since that injury, but I think if the goaltending can hold firm, then the Capitals should be all right.
All right. What about you, Ryan, for the Canadiens? What's their biggest weakness that you're worried about going in?
The inexperienced defense, I'd say. I'm just looking at the stats now. They gave up 29 shots per game, which was firmly in the bottom 10 of the league. They have a top pairing of, at least right now, of Lane Hudson and Caden Gooley. Lane Hudson, they have him playing on his natural left side. Gooley is also a left-handed shot, but the Canadiens have taken to playing him on the right side just to even out the pairings. And it's worked for them recently, and it's kind of, since Gooley came back into the lineup after lacerated quadriceps, I believe, that was had been sustained in January. The Canadiens have, I think they were like 6, 7, 1, and 2, I want to say. So you might want to check that, but I'm fairly sure. But all that to say, they've been good thus far, but that inexperience factor kind of irks me. Yeah, and again, like I said, Arbor Jackeye is probably going to be a key to the series just to keep Tom Wilson in check. And he's been a regular healthy scratch by head coach Martin St. Louis. So he has the capacity to both help or hinder the Canadiens. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, talk about guys that could have a style that's going to be good for the playoffs. And Jackeye definitely has that style that he could be good. But like you said, he could also make a mistake and be maybe too physical, take to some dumb penalties, and then you don't want the Washington Capitals on the power play either. So it could be special teams are good. Probably, I mean, it's always big in this series for sure. All right, let's talk about some X factors. It can be a player, it can be a situation, whatever you want to go with. So, Christopher, for the Capitals, what's going to be an X factor in this one?
Alex Ovechkin, the best scorer in the world. But it's not just him putting pucks in the back of the net. It's contributing offense across the board. In his playoff career, he's played 151 games. He has 141 points. So he still averages about a point a game just to help drive the Washington offense. And then he scores it at a 0.47 goals per game. So every 2 games you're getting an Ovechkin goal in a 7-game series. That's 3 goals minimum, just based off of math, which he'll take every time. Back when the only series they've played was that 7-game series loss, he had 5 goals, 5 assists for 10 points. As a very, very young player, I want to say it was only his second postseason appearance, maybe. So I would say that he's going to be somebody that's going to be an X factor for Washington.
For sure. And Ryan, what about you for the Canadiens? I mean, there's quite a few you could probably choose from that could be an X factor in this one. What do you got?
Demidov. Beyond, I mean, he's the obvious one. Beyond that, I just say memories of 2010. And like that, I think Ovechkin is only definitely the only remaining team capital from that Washington Capitals team, the President's Trophy winning squad in 2010 who remembers, but he remembers. Believe you me, he remembers. All of Washington remembers, but he specifically remembers because I'm sure he still has nightmares to this day.
The bird mascot might remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, if Martin St. Louis just needs to remind us, not that they need reminding, but just play a few clips from that series and just let them loose. Because again, expectations are so incredibly low for the Canadiens for this series that no one really. I personally don't really care. Like, if they could get swept like 10-0 in every single game in a 4-game sweep, and I'd be like, well, they made the playoffs, so sweet. I'm sure like most of Montreal probably does not have that exact same mindset, but I definitely bet that like St. Louis got his players playing loose, and yeah, I'm not going to say that they're definitely just happy to be there, like I alluded to earlier, but I'm sure that they're going to just have fun with it and like see what happens.
And that could be a dangerous thing for the Capitals, having a team playing loose, and that could be something for sure as an X factor in this series too. All right, guys, series MVP. This can be from either team. You can choose and maybe tip your hand to who's going to win this one. But Christopher, who is going to be the best player in this series?
I actually have it as Dylan Strome for the Capitals. Fantastic all year, 82 points in 82 games. So I think he's been absolutely phenomenal on that top line. He's going to be both tough to handle offensively, but he's also going to have a big part in helping to shut down the Montreal offense. So he's who I have circled.
Yeah, he's really fit in to the Capitals since he came, and this year has been beyond. So definitely a big part of why Ovechkin is now the all-time leading goal scorer. So definitely big on that top line. All right, Ryan, what about you for a series MVP?
I mean, I'd love, the writer in me would love it to be Pierre-Luc Dubois. I don't think that's going to happen, though. I think that, all due respect to him, I think he won't necessarily be able to handle the bright lights of the Bell Center. I'm going to go with Tom Wilson. I think he's going to be the difference maker, and I do believe the Capitals will win the series. Yeah,
he's always the difference maker. I mean, the thing is, like I say, he's built for the playoffs, and that's something that I always have to watch out for him in going to any playoff series. All right, let's do some bold predictions. I'll stay with you, Ryan, for a bold prediction in this series.
Jeez, can you go to Chris first?
I can see. When I stay the same person, I've had to switch back. So yeah, Christopher, you can go first then.
Yeah.
All right.
Ryan was actually spot on because Tom Wilson is who I have as one of my bold predictions as the leading scorer for the Caps in the series, and not Alex Ovechkin. So I was glad to hear Wilson. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I could see him getting 4 or 5, and I could see that leading the series, and a 5, 6, maybe 7-game series if it's low scoring. So, and then the other bold prediction I have, I don't know why, I just feel this in my bones. Jacob Chychrun with a playoff overtime goal.
Yeah, he's been really good this season. So that's something that he could be a big part of it too. All right, yeah, Ryan, you got one?
Sure. I'll say that the Canadiens are gonna win the first 2 on the road and then get reverse swept.
All right.
See, that scares the crap out of me, just because of how the series has ended and the fact that the Capitals have lost in the first round so often. That mentality on the mentality on a veteran group To go 0-2, lose the first two at home, that's the most dangerous thing that could happen to Washington in this series.
Yeah.
It also, just to alleviate some of your concerns, that's what happened to the Canadiens, I believe, in 05 or 06 when they faced the Carolina Hurricanes. The Canadiens were the underdogs. They won 2 on the road, then got reverse swept. There was a change in net from Martin Gerber to Cam Ward, and then the Hurricanes won the cup. So
it was a good choice.
You never know. I'm going to say Ivan Demidov has at least 2 goals in this series. That's my one. I think he's going to be good, even though there's like zero expectations on him going in. I don't think so anything, but it'd be great for him to be good in this series. All right, let's get to our final predictions here. Ryan, you gave it away, but how many games do you think it's going for this one?
6.
6. So Capitals in 6. Christopher, what do you think?
That's exactly what I had. Capitals in 6. I think they Montreal gets 1 in the first 2 at Capital One Arena. And then I think they put on a decent show in one of games 3 or 4 for the home fans. I think the depth is there for the Capitals, but we'll see. I don't say this to disparage Montreal in any way. That team might be so young that they don't understand they're not supposed to win this series, and that very well could propel them into the second round. Shot the Capitals.
There are reports that the Canadiens are like the youngest team in NHL history to have made the playoffs, which is I don't know how accurate those sources are, but that's the report out there. So take that.
So just based off of vibes, there's a world I could see that happening.
Yeah. So I'm going to put myself on record just so I can say I was right. I'm going to say the Canadiens win this in 7. So we'll see.
You just made a few pounds in Montreal.
So if that happens, I can say I predicted it. So that's my prediction for this one. And I will give it away that I actually did put it into our Hockey Writers predictions as well. Our official predictions for the website. So I'm not lying here. I did put it in there too. All right. Well, that's this. We'll see how this goes. I mean, it should be a fun one. I mean, 2 really good, high-skilled teams, and a lot of skill on both sides too. So should be a fun one. So thanks, Christopher. Thanks, Ryan, for coming on and previewing this series. We'll see who's left standing in the second round, who's going to be back on here. But make sure to check out everything at thehockeywriters.com. That all the coverage for this series and all the playoffs coming up, which start on Saturday. Not this series. This series doesn't start till Monday, which is pretty. I mean, I guess not crazy. There's a few series that don't start till Monday. The Oilers series as well doesn't start till then. But we'll wait on it and have fun with it. So until our next preview, we will see you next time.